I've been to enough lean sales to know that most storage units don't hold treasure, they hold intentions. Half-finished projects, boxes labeled, kitchen, important, that are anything but. Still, when the manager at Westside Self-Storage leaned over and whispered, "C41 hasn't been opened in 12 years, something in me woke up like a tuned engine. They cut the red lock. The corrugated door shuddered, climbed, and the morning sun poured in, turning dust into glitter. From the threshold I saw the usual chaos, leaning metal shelves, totes stacked like Tetris, a rolling tool chest with one drawer hanging open. Then my eyes adjusted and my breath stalled. At the back of the unit, a tarp the size of a sail draped over something low and impossibly wide, the fabric puckered where sharp geometry pressed up from beneath. 5 minutes to preview. No stepping in, no touching. Auction law is a religion. I crouched at the line and scanned for clues. On the concrete, 2 long, shallow grooves arsed inward, where wheels had once rolled, then stopped. A wooden crate near the tarp wore a faded stamp, CFRP, handle with care. Carbon fiber reinforced polymer. Not a couch. Starting at 500, the auctioneer called. A reseller in a straw hat tossed a bid. Then a flipper with a GoPro on a chest rig bumped it to 8. I said, 1,000, like I was ordering coffee. It jumped to $1,400, then $2,000. The regulars faded. 2,500, I heard myself say. A long pause. Somewhere a forklift beeped. 3,000, straw hat tried. Voice thin. I swallowed, tasted iron, and said, 3,500. Silence. The gavel fell like a heart monitor flatlining. Sold to number 72 for 3,500. When it's your unit, the manager hands you bolt cutters with ceremony. I cut the tag, took a beat to breathe, and rolled the door all the way up. Heat rushed out along with the dry smell of cardboard and old rubber, and a fainter note I couldn't place, epoxy and leather, almost sweet. The tarp didn't lift, it let go, sliding in heavy, dusty folds. First came a nose so low it was nearly fiction, an arrow of matte silver with edges like a folded knife. Then the front fenders unfurled, faceted planes wrapping wheels that looked like turbines. No badge, just a small hexagon logo etched in satin black at the tip of the nose. Not a bull, not a prancing horse, but I knew that hex. Lamborghini uses hexes like punctuation. And the doors, my God. Even under the tarp you could see the cut line arsing up the A-pillar. Sear doors. Tell me I'm not seeing what I'm seeing, I said to absolutely nobody. The canopy glass was deep tinted, a single sweep without visible wipers. Through it, the cabin looked like a sci-fi set, 2 thin-backed seats, a center spine of exposed weave, and a steering yoke that made my palms sweat. On the tunnel, a placard in Italian, Prototipo, non per uso stradale. Prototype, not for road use. I circled slowly, afraid to blink. The rear deck wore louvers in a chevron pattern, feeding a central spine that disappeared under a removable cowl. Someone had thought about airflow the way poets think about syllables. Where a production car would have brand badges, this thing had laser-etched codes, VP01, Centro Style, Sant'Agata Bolognese, and a tiny Q or sticker scabbed with age. Okay, I whispered, bargaining with air. Either this is the world's best movie prop, or... I started a careful dig. The totes were labeled in 2 hands, office in thick marker, CS, air in thin engineer script. In the first crate, a foam-cut suitcase holding clay model bucks, front splitters, a 1.5 mirror housing, a tiny wheel with the same turbine pattern. In the second, a Pelican case stenciled hill, powertrain, VP01, inside an industrial tablet and 2 FID cards. The tablet was dead. The cards had the hex logo and codes that matched the placard. Under a shelf, wrapped in butcher paper, was a framed photograph, wind tunnel smoke tracing over a shape too familiar, the Centro-style logo in the corner, and a caption, Progetto Fenis, VP01, 2012. Project Phoenix. VP01, validation prototype number 1. My skin prickled. I found a binder. Inside, tabbed sections in Italian and English, body in white, CFRP layup schedules, active arrow calibration, doodles in the margins, a 6-sided shape turned into a bull's head with 2 strokes. Engineers. I didn't want to open the car. I also very much wanted to open the car. The driver's door seam was nearly invisible until the light hit it. I pressed a flush button behind the front wheel arch and a whisper of servo woke. The door lifted not with drama but with certainty, pivoting on a hinge that looked like sculpture. The interior smelled like glue and leather and ambition. The seats were upholstered in something between suede and technical fabric, stitched in hex. The dash was all screen, no analog. A tiny red toggle cap guarded a switch labeled LV Master. Another, HV isolation, low voltage, high voltage. This wasn't a clay buck. This had a nervous system. I didn't touch the toggles. I breathed. My hands shook anyway. I texted my friend Nate, who speaks carbon fiber and legalese in equal parts. Bring gloves, multimeter, and your calm voice. C41. Now. 10 minutes later, he was in the doorway, sunglasses sliding down his nose. That's either the cleanest replica I've ever seen, he said, voice low, or we're about to forget how to breathe. He knelt at the rear and peered through the louver gap. Power electronics. That's a real inverter housing. See the bus bars? And those orange cables. High voltage. Be careful. He pointed at a service loop with a brake plug. Whoever stored it pulled the HV link. That's why it's not a paperweight with teeth. We found the 12-volt service port under a panel, and used a jump pack with a gentle touch. The cabin woke in stages, the screens gray to life. Then the center display blooming a logo that wasn't a logo so much as a suggestion. 6 thin lines rotating to form the hex. Venice. A menu appeared, validation prototype, VP01, confidential. Nate exhaled. Well, that's that. I navigated with a gloved finger up. System status showed a red bar over traction drive, removed, and 3 green bars over aero, thermal, LV. A note at the bottom read, Hill mode enabled. Hardware in the loop. No actual engine. No motor. But everything else was here. The brain, the veins, the skin. We powered it down. We powered me down. This was no time to invite the internet. We got it onto wheel dollies, and tiptoed it into daylight like we were moving a sleeping cat made of priceless glass. In the sun the silver wasn't silver. It was bare carbon with a ghost coat, clear over satin weave in places, gloss in others. Like the car had been used to argue about finishes in a meeting. The panel gaps told stories of hands, not robots. Behind the front wheels, tiny witness marks, Sharpie dots and signatures, initials, MB, R, LD. A neighbor wandered over with that particular gait of a man who might tell you he knows a guy. Is that a Lambo? He asked. Reverend? Something like that, I said, and rolled the door back down. We didn't leave it at the yard. We didn't even let it spend the night as a rumor. By dusk a covered transporter swallowed VP01 and carried it to a rented space I use for bad ideas and miracles. We pushed it onto the epoxy floor, wiped the dust like we were polishing a museum thought, and locked the door. Then the questions started beating like a second pulse. How did a validation prototype leave Sant'Agata? Why was it in a public storage unit? Did someone want it hidden, or simply safe? Did I own it now in any way a lawyer would recognize? The binder had answers and landmines. A shipping sheet listed Centro Style, Aero Lab to Client Confidential, event asset with a route through Los Angeles in 2013. Under client someone had handwritten G. Private Museum and then scribbled it out so hard the paper polished. Another page cataloged panels removed and replaced. Under powertrain, ICE mule removed, Hill module installed, 2014, stamped and initialed. ICE mule, Nate said. They had a mock internal combustion drivetrain in it at some point, probably to test weight and cooling. Then they yanked it and used this as a live buck for aero. We found a second Pelican. Inside, a folder of 8x10 wind tunnel prints, a USB stick labeled VP01, SIM, and a letter on thin, creamy paper. To whomever opens this next, Venice was a bridge between what we loved and what the board thought they wanted. We built something honest and were told to paint it louder. VP01 survived because we needed a ghost to talk to. If you are reading this, please treat it like a person. Machines remember. MB Centro Style, 2014. Machines remember. We didn't sleep much. At 2 a.m., I was on the phone with a friend in Italy. Who knows people who can be trusted for about 6 minutes at a time? I read him the codes, the placard, the initials. He went quiet, then said, Venice was between Asterian talk and Aventador final run. There were internal fights. Some wanted a V10 hybrid, some pure V12. Centro Style did a full-scale aero buck. It should have been crushed. He paused. A man with those initials left. He is now somewhere that makes planes. But how does VP01 end up here? I asked. America, he said. And I could hear the shrug. Morning brought mortal problems. The tablet wanted a special charger. The 12-volt battery, tiny and expensive, was a corpse. The wheel bearings had the faint dry protest of a thing that wants to move but is afraid to try. We ordered what we could, made what we couldn't, and set rules. No HV, no toggles beyond LV master, no social posts, no grandstanding. Not yet. I filmed carefully, hands, details, documents, cut around anything that would put a lawyer in a sprinting mood, and recorded the kind of narration that shakes when you pretend it doesn't.